Welcome back to the Flip Flop Fab Shop. What we're starting on is the last video on the Lexus. I did the lower ball joints, right? And I showed how to install roll center adjusters, which I have 18mm roll center adjusters. So I replaced the lower ball joints, both sides, and then I drove it to work. A couple days later, the left-hand side, or the driver's side, started clicking again. So I got another new lower ball joint. I replaced it, and then I think like 7 days later, it started clicking again. So that's where we're at. The car is lowered on Megan Racing Easy Street 2s. It's got adjustable upper control arms, adjustable rear lower control arms, adjustable toe arms. But one issue I had, you can see right here, upper control arm hits the strut tower. It hits right there. And I guess when you lower the Lexus GS, second gen Lexus GS, even if you do get roll center adjusters, the suspension geometry is still incorrect, apparently. I'm not an expert, but so what people do to alleviate this hitting is to take like 40mm out of the knuckle / spindle. People call it both, I don't know, but take 40mm out. I'm not gonna add tilt, as in camber. I don't want added camber. I'm just gonna take 40mm out of it and get 40mm roll center adjusters, which are right here on the lower ball joint. The person I'm gonna have do my spindle shortening is Defworks, DEFWORX. On their website, they advertise that they only do IS300 shortening service, but I emailed him and he said just check out with the IS300 service and we'll actually do the GS300 for you. So, which this is a GS430, GS400, and GS300 all share the same suspension, so that's pretty cool. I think as of now he offers $200 just to shorten them. That doesn't account for shipping. And then one thing he told me was to save weight on to save shipping costs, take the dust shield off and take the hub out. So what I'm probably gonna do is pretty sure my wheel bearings are pretty good, so we're gonna have to take the brake caliper off, take the wheel speed sensor out, take the rotor off, take the brake shield off, and then on the back side there's this cover right here. Take that off, and there's a nut in there that holds the hub on. So we'll take that big nut off, which I've never done, but we'll do that, and then take the hub out and leave the wheel bearing in there, because I'm pretty sure mine are still pretty good. So that's what we're gonna do. Oh, we gotta take the tie rod end off too, and the lower ball joint, etc., etc. So yeah, let's get to work. First thing I did is take the cotter pins out of the tie rod end and the lower ball joint. The second thing we're gonna do is just take this wheel speed sensor out, because as soon as you undo the tie rod end, this is gonna completely swivel, and then you can tear your wheel speed sensor. So you want to take that out. It's just a 10mm right there. Then hang that up. All right, now I got the wheel speed sensor out. I turned the wheel all the way to the right to make it easy to access these brake caliper bolts. There's two 17mm back here. Let's see if the impact will break it. Nope. Yep. I'll get that off and hang it up here somewhere. All right, so this is all pretty simple. This is a 17 up here. Just gonna break it loose for now. Don't need to take it all the way off. That's a 19. Alright. Okay, now OEM size on this lower ball joint nut, I believe is a 21. Mine's a 22. And then again, I have seen in the last video, I have roll center adjusters. And the guy who makes them supplies the hex, like Allen key. So your car may have something different. I can't get a really good angle to record this, so I'm going to break these two loose, and then I'll break the 22 loose. Okay, so I got the bottom 3 bolts broken. Now I'm going to smack the spindle right here with a hammer. It'd be better with a brass hammer, but trick. Now we can loosen the rest of these. We're going to do the tie rod in as well with the hammer. There it goes. Okay. Now we can completely loosen these. Alright everyone, so it's been a couple months since I last recorded me disassembling the front end on the Lexus. I had plans of shortening the spindles 40 millimeters, getting 40 millimeter roll center adjusters, but then I did some more research, and if I shorten these 40 millimeters, they would actually hit my tire, and I would need like 1-inch spacers, and I'm not into that, so I didn't want to do that, so I canceled that plan. A lot of people say these Godspeed upper control arms are a bad design with how thick the whole top assembly is, and that's why they hit. So I got SPC. Well, they're Mevotech, but they're actually SPC arms, which are like normally $600. I got them for $320 shipped. Anyway, they're a better design, and you get caster correction adjustability as well. And I got Sankei 555 made in Japan tie rod ends, and the same for the ball joints. So hopefully that alleviates my lower ball joint issue, and hopefully the upper control arms don't hit the strut tower. If those continue to hit the strut tower after I do this, the only thing I can really think of is to get like Fortunato 500 coilovers or BC coilovers, or one with a stiffer spring rate that won't ride terribly. These are Megan Racing Easy Street 2s. They ride good. I like the way they feel, but the problem is they're 10K spring rate in the front and I believe 8K in the rear. Whereas I believe the Fortunato 500s are 14K front, 12K rear. So a lot stiffer, but a lot of people say they ride really good too. So that's kind of the dilemma I'm at. I'm gonna put these SPCs on and see how that is, and if they keep hitting, I guess down the road I'll get some stiffer coilovers. So these Godspeed control arms will be for sale probably, and if I have my problem, the Megan Easy Street 2s will probably be for sale as well. So let's get to work. So here's the haul. Sankei 555 tie rod ends. They look really good. They're pretty heavy. And then these are greasable Sankei 555 lower ball joints. And they look like pretty stout. They even have nice packaging. These are greasable. Here's the old ball joints. They just look cheap, and they kept failing on me, so not with the AutoZone junk and with the Sankei. I wanted to get OEM, but they're $120 a piece. And I'm sure they are better than Sankei. My only problem is, if this is kind of like my test run. If these last, then awesome. But if they get ruined, if I ruined Lexus OEM ball joints, I'd be livid because it's $240 down the drain. Whereas I only spent like 40 or 50 a piece for these on Parts Geek. Hopefully they're legit Japan. We'll find out, I guess. But they say all signs indicate towards Japan. But then I got these from Rock Auto. These are Mevotech Supremes / SPC. And SPC makes a lot of adjustable upper control arms and such for like Tundras, Tacomas, 4Runners, probably 100 series Land Cruisers. Not really a solid axle suspension company, more of like an IFS Toyota suspension company. But yeah, so I believe SPC, these are normally like $600 or so. I got these for $150 each side. And if you go on Rock Auto, the left and right are the same part number. As you see right here, it says right. You can see that's correct. And then if you flip it over, it says left. And this side goes over there. The only difference is you just swap this ball joint over. And this is a really cool ball joint. I like this more than these because you have these little Allen head bolts. There's 6 of them, and Godspeed quality is junk. So I had one snap on me, one of the bolts. It didn't, like, nothing happened, just one of them snapped. Whereas this, I don't even know what size. It looks like a 19 or a 17 or maybe a 21, somewhere in there. Probably like a 21. And it gives you torque spec, 120 foot-pounds. It's 1 nut. Then the caster correction, you can see where this is at. It might be pretty hard to do this with one hand, but if you loosen this, flip it over, you see where it's at. You can lift it and rotate it like that. Alright, and that nut sits in this plate. I won't do it because I have it. There it goes. But yeah, smart SPC. I feel a lot better about all these suspension components than what was on it. So I guess first plan or first step, take the Godspeed off, put the new SPC. I don't know what to do about my caster. I'll probably leave it in the neutral position. I'm sure it is off, I just don't know in which direction. I'll just probably leave it in the stock configuration, and then I gotta figure out where to put the caliper while I put the new control arm in. So yeah, then we'll do tie rod in, ball joint, put the spindle back on, be good to go. I'm just gonna use a 14mm and a breaker bar. We'll break them both loose and then get rid of this breaker bar. There's one. There we go. There's two. Alright, and those bolts are the same length, so doesn't matter which one goes back in. There she is. These bushings are still good up here. You can see they're hitting there and there. So yeah, these will probably be for sale. Alright, here's those 6 Allen keys. And I had these for like 2 years. They're not terrible. I never had to replace the ball joint, so that's cool. But I'm not a fan of this big, bulky guy. And this gives you caster correction. I assume the quality control on this is a lot better than this. As you can see, this is 1 bar and 1 bar welded to this plate, and this is all just one solid piece. That's a thick piece there. Dimensionally, they look pretty similar. This has like this bend here, and this is just... So we'll see how much better this fits. Hopefully it fits better and won't hit. Maybe it's lower, I don't know. Alright, so if you look at this chart here, front right of vehicle, position your arm in the correct way. Then it tells you your caster, and I put mine at 0 for the time being. I'll get it aligned at some point, so that's at 0. So I put the control arm like here, so it's straight, and then hit that with a mallet. And then wiggle the control arm so you can get the bolt started. There we go. Pretty tedious. It's hard though, because you got to get the bolt lined up with the receiving end also. I remember doing this with the Godspeed ones. It was kind of sucky. I think it may have caught on that side. All right. Well, this is what I mean when it hits the control arms. I mean the strip towers. It hits here, on this other side, and on the very top. But you can see this goes up really far. Right? And if you, let's say this is its resting position while on the ground, when you shorten the spindle, it 40 millimeters, it'll bring it down like to here to its resting location, right? But again, I can't do that because my wheel and tire set up, and I didn't want to. I like the way it is, so I wasn't going to change it. So I'll put the spindle in. Well, I'll put the lower ball joint, tie rod in, spindle, and then we'll torque this down to 120 foot-pounds. All right. So I got the right-hand side ball joint, lower ball joint. I didn't notice this in the bag, but it's like heat treated around the edge for some reason. I don't know what that's about. I'm gonna back the grease hole. Get that out of there. Put the grease zerk in. Okay, it does have a little grease in there. I was wondering if it did. Okay, so we're gonna start with the lower ball joint. It's gonna go this way. This one has a little grease in it from the factory. Once everything's bolted down, that's when I'll fill this with moly grease. Oh yeah, that's a 19. Okay. Okay, make sure you got your nut ready. Let's make sure this is the same. Okay, that's the same nut. I'll put that there. $17. Okay. Again, I have roll center adjusters. These are 18 millimeter roll center adjusters. So assembly might be a little different for me. I think the manufacturer said these need to be torqued to 87, whereas stock, I believe it's 83. Okay, hopefully you guys can see this a little better. Take my roll. Normally you just put this right here, put your bolts through and you're good. But on mine, I have to put these spacers on top of the ball joint. Line everything up. I spin them to make sure they sit down correctly, or I try. Okay. Seem good? And then it's the HW10 hex head, whatever the heck that is. I'm gonna need an extension. Okay, got my little extension. Let's start these by hand to make sure they're going correctly. this wrench. We're gonna move to the tie rod end now. Okay, now to replace your tie rod end, it has this lock nut here. So what you gotta do is just put your nut on here, a couple threads. You gotta back that off a little bit. So now, there you go. You undo this nut again, bring this off. So now this is loose and you can just back it off. And people count threads. I'm not going to count threads because it never really works for me. I'm just going to leave that nut where it was, and that'll be pretty close. Okay, I threaded the new one on all the way. What I'm going to do is get this up in here, put the stud up there. Alright, I finally got it. What I did was I put this up as far as I could, and then I turned the whole spindle to the left, and it moved it. There's my new nut. This one, 19. Lock. And you want to try to hold the tie rod in place. Snug that down. Okay, should be good. Okay, so I got all my torque specs here. So, upper control arm, I'm referring to that as the top two inner bolts. Those are supposed to be torqued to 39 foot-pounds. Good luck getting your torque wrench in there. And then the spindle, upper control arm of the spindle, this one here, 64 foot-pounds. Tie rod end, 64 foot-pounds. Lower ball joint, the big nut on the bottom, 119 foot-pounds. And then the two bolts that hold the lower ball joint to the spindle are supposed to be torqued to, I think 83 is stock, but with the roll center adjuster kit, it says 87. And then this top nut here. This top nut, 120 foot-pounds. So, I'm just gonna start torquing everything down. Okay, I had to take the two roll center adjuster bolts out so I could get this low enough to tighten it to its torque spec. Try to do that. Okay, I'm gonna loosen up these top ones. I can't get it low enough still. There we go. That's better. There's 120. Taking forever. There we go. Okay, and of course the top's a 17. Okay, I got everything torqued down. Now I gotta go in cotter pins on the lower ball joint, the tie rod end, and the upper control arm, the spindle nut. And then we'll go on with the rotor and caliper and wheel, and then I'm gonna do the other side. Probably not gonna record that. All cotter pins are in. Now I'm gonna attempt to grease the lower ball joint with like 2 or 3 squirts. I absolutely have the worst luck with grease guns, so hopefully this works. It is greased already-ish, but it's always good practice to grease. I have Master Pro Molly grease. This is what we put. This is like for high pressure situations, like your slip yoke on your truck or whatever. We also use this for when we do front end rebuilds for the Burfield joints on Toyota solid axle suspension. So this is good stuff. We also need to go in with our wheel speed sensor. Okay, everything's together. Now that the Mevotech SPC instructions does say to load the suspension and then tighten those bolts for the upper control arms on the one that mounts to the chassis. So I actually am going to do that. Only way I know how to do that is to jack up the suspension a little bit. So. Okay, I think that's probably good enough. Be careful, you don't want that to come off the jack stand. Now I'm just going to tighten these by hand so it feels decent. Get rid of the jack. Oh. Yeah, I'm calling that good. Okay, so I'm doing the other side, and I just want to point this out. So I wanted to show the difference between the SPC and the Godspeed. So it hits right there. If you look, this is down further. Let me do this. So it is a little different in shape. So hopefully the SPC looks like it cleared up here a little better. And this comes up, whereas the SPC is like flat. So we'll see. All right, got both sides together. Everything's torqued to spec, cotter pins. Now to go on with the wheel. Torque that to 76 foot-pounds. So hopefully this solves my issues, because this car is very frustrating. So you can see the puddle of oil right there. Yep, cam seals. All right. Okay, it's on all fours. It's got a little bit of, I think it might settle a bit, but it's got some, not positive camber, but I don't know, it's poking out. It's kind of weird. I think it just needs to settle. And the toe, looks like it's towed out. Looks like it's towed out again on this side. Okay, this is the third day driving it to work. So far, lower ball joints haven't started clicking yet. Every turn I take, I'm afraid they're gonna start clicking. But so far, so good. So hopefully they hang in there. The upper control arms, I think, do still hit a little bit. It's significantly better than what it was, though. Like, way better. I just think these coilovers are still a little too soft. So that may be something I do in the future, but for the time being, it's all right. I have bigger concerns like the cam seals, the crank seal, the timing belt's soaked in oil. So I have bigger concerns than just the control arms hitting the strut towers. So I'd like to get everything else mechanically sound before I put a different set of coils on it. Just because of like how much money I've put into this stupid car already. So yeah, that's kind of what we're dealing with. But normally right now, it would sound like a machine gun's freaking going off in my car. Just like metal on metal the whole time. But so far, it's not as bad, so that's good. And also, look how decent the alignment is right now. Like, the steering wheel's dead straight. Look at that. Now, it does handle a little weird. It's kind of towed out on both sides, and I have a little bit of, I want to say either 0 degrees or a little positive. It needs like 1 degree to match the rear, which I'd want more like 0.75 degrees, I think, not a full degree. I hate camber. There's nothing worse than looking at a car with a bunch of camber. I absolutely hate that. But I don't know, every time I take it to an alignment shop, I have Manzo rear lower control arms that are like adjustable all the way. You could give it positive camber if you want to, but for some reason, every shop I take it to, they don't do it. Like, they don't do less than 1 degree, even if I ask them to. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I don't know. I wish I could do my own alignments, but I don't have all the necessary equipment for that. So, sorry for my little alignment rant. It's just something I've been dealing with for a couple of years. But, so the car's pretty good. I've been dailying it to work for a while. I didn't sound too positive in my update when I was in the car, but I actually don't think they're hitting at all. Like, I don't see any marks on top of the control arms. So I don't think they're actually hitting. I think what I'm hearing is the coilovers and the tire combination. Since these are 245/40s and I have them at like 40 PSI, that's not a lot of give. And the coilovers being stiffer, I can actually tell the more stiff I make them, the louder it is when I hit little bumps on the highway. And the more I loosen it, the quieter it rides. Because I think when it's hitting a bump, when it's soft, it kind of just goes over it. But when it's stiff, it reacts to it. And it makes a loud noise. It's not, nothing's actually hitting. because if you think about it, if I make the coilover stiffer, then the upper control arm shouldn't hit. Like, it should be a better condition than being soft, yet it sounds even louder. So I think it's just a combination of tire and coilover stiffness and how it reacts to the actual road. So not too bad. I'm pretty happy with it. I still need to get it aligned, but it's not bad enough, and I'm not noticing any weird tire wear. So I'm pretty happy with it so far. Hopefully this helps you all out. Again, if you are really low, you might want to get your spindle shortened, but I try not to cut up my car, so I don't want to deal with all that. So this is the less modified way to go about alleviating that upper control arm hitting. So thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped you guys out.